Yellowstone Forever is in financial trouble. I'm John Shearer, and coming up, find out how the park thinks it can help save its primary fundraising partner.
During times of uncertainty or unrest, we look toward certain people or things for guidance as to what to do. But what does the local church say about what's going on right now? I'm Annie Johnson. I'll have that full story coming up.
Just ahead to 6:30 on Montana This Morning, Caitlin Corbicelli and Matt Elwell. Snow still lingering in some parts of the state, but right now it's looking pretty nice out
It looks
here.
beautiful. You step outside and you realize
not as
it's
much.
still actually spring.
Chilly.
Yeah, it is a little chilly, and that coffee is going to taste really good on this chilly morning. Temperatures right now, 34 degrees in Butte, 34 in Belgrade. Wascally Wabbit.
Belgrade.
Maybe don't finish that cup.
Tropical Four Corners.
Mainly dealing with clear conditions early on, maybe a little patchy fog. A few spotty showers as you head into the afternoon. I don't think that it's going to be an overrunning chance of rain. We'll just see a few showers in the area. Daytime highs into the 50s, maybe low 60s.
You want to run over there and get that cup away from him?
I don't know if that's coffee, is it?
Cold coffee now.
Tastes good though, right?
Yes.
That's all that matters. Just ahead of 6:31 now, Yellowstone National Park Superintendent Cam Shawley says he thinks he can get the park's official fundraising and education partner back on its feet.
Yeah, that's even though it's on the brink of insolvency right now. MTN's John Shearer has more.
Yellowstone Forever was formed in 2016 by the merger of the Yellowstone Foundation and the Yellowstone Association.
They took on a lot of debt. The philanthropy did not hit some of the levels that they thought it would.
Now the organization is millions in debt, and thanks to COVID-19, the income from its stores, education programs, and donations has plummeted. And that directly affects the park.
What I would say is this park has probably set up a structure that is too dependent on philanthropy in some critical areas.
One of those is the incredibly popular Wolf program.
We've got to ensure that our federal spending plans allocate an adequate amount of money to ensure that if we have some type of situation like we're facing now, that we're not going to impact critical programs like wolves.
Now, Shawley says he's already taking steps to reallocate the budget in order to protect the Wolf program. And he says rumors that the Yellowstone Institute will be dissolved are just flat wrong.
What I guarantee is there will be an institute, and it will not be suspended indefinitely. It'll likely be suspended for the rest of this year, but that was largely probably going to happen anyway.
But Shawley says Yellowstone Forever needs drastic revamping and severe overhead cuts in order to stay viable.
And we've got to try to pull people together here and really come up with solutions that make sense.
To that end, he has meetings planned this week and next with the fundraising and institute staffs, as well as the board of directors. In Bozeman, John Shearer, MTN News.
Now, we contacted Yellowstone Forever about its financial situation, but have not received a reply.
Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks says it has captured 3 grizzlies southwest of Shelby. The bears were attempting to obtain grain from one of the many grain spills across the Golden Triangle. The 3 bears, an adult female grizzly and 2 yearlings, had been frequenting residents in pursuit of grain spills. FWP said they have been working to secure the grain and deal with those spills. None of the bears had been involved in past conflicts and will be safely located. 6:33 now, the Bozeman City Commission approved the Blackwood Groves Growth Policy Amendment with a vote of 4-0 last night. This moves along future plans for development on the 120 acres of agricultural land located south of Alder Creek Drive and east of South 19th in Bozeman. A growth policy amendment was needed to pass in order to revise the future land use map designation, which could allow for zoning change in the largely residential area. There were lots of public comments sent to commissioners about the potential for commercial development in Blackwood Groves, and Mayor Chris Mell acknowledged the strains that rapid growth can have on the community.
It's a good discussion to have, but it's very difficult, and a lot of folks are pretty happy with how things are, and it's difficult to see others moving here, and accepting that change or having to work with that change can be exceedingly frustrating.
Next Monday, the discussion will continue as the commission reviews the landowner's request to change the zone to a residential emphasis mixed use designation that would allow for mixed residential and commercial development of the land south of Bozeman. Officials are anticipating a high volume of public comment next week.
In court headlines now at 6:34, 33-year-old man who identifies himself as Jesus Chris Quinn appeared before a Gallatin County Justice judge yesterday after being charged with assault with a weapon. Court documents say Quinn was kicked out of the Crystal Bar on Main Street in Bozeman for unknown reasons. Bar employee called police after he said Quinn returned to the bar, threatening employees with a bow and arrow. That was just after 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. The judge imposed certain restrictions which Quinn claims conflict with his religion.
When you guys say illegal drugs, part of our religion is we take sacred sacraments with plant medicines that your country deems drugs. So like that's how we pray.
Any illegal drug, if you have restrictions or you're allowed by law or statute to do that, then that's not a problem.
Fair enough.
No use of alcohol.
Yeah, we don't use that.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, I was that night, but we don't use that.
Court documents refer to the man as John Doe because the name Jesus Chris Quinn came up as invalid in all 50 states. His bond set at $50,000. Next court appearance will be July 2nd. Also, Northwestern Energy says it will begin limiting access to company property at Hauser Dam this fall. Beginning November 1st, the gates located at Hauser Dam Road just north of Black Sandy State Park will close between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. That's from April to October. The gates will close between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. Northwestern says users will still be able to exit the area after hours. Company says the changes in public access is to reduce illegal activity occurring in the area at night. Northwestern says the area has seen drug use, underage drinking, vandalism, and litter.
Well, at a time of so much unrest and division within our country, a lot of people look to others for answers and understanding. MTN's Andy Johnson talks with the pastor of a church in Bozeman.
It's obvious that our nation is facing a lot of challenges right now. Tensions are running high. It's easy to look at friends and family and figure out what they're thinking, but what does the local church have to say?
Our greatest tool is to pray for changed hearts, because I think we all recognize whatever legislation has changed, if there's not a change in heart or perspective, there's very little change that takes place.
As the lead pastor at Grace Bible Church, Brian Hughes is often someone many people look to in times of conflict.
What a great opportunity for Christians to set an example of, you know what, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, or if you're Jew or Gentile or African American, Caucasian American, or whatever, you know what, we can be one and we can show that unity. And what a great picture to sort of lead the way.
And what exactly does the pastor suggest people should be praying for?
For good decisions by leaders. We're praying for wisdom in leadership. We're praying for people's hearts to be changed, attitudes. So those are very specific biblical injunctions.
To be clear, Pastor Brian says Christians should be praying first, but they can also express themselves in other ways.
We are allowed to protest. Now, we're not allowed to break the law in our protests, so don't do it unlawfully. But if you are concerned about what has happened in this country, especially recent events, and you want your voice to be heard, so you want to either march or protest, I said, by all means. That is not off the table for a Christian. That's something you can do, and if it's in your heart to do, then do it.
Today marks 2 weeks since the death of George Floyd, which sparked the massive protests across the country. Reporting in Bozeman, Annie Johnson, MTN News.
6:38 now. One psychologist weighing in on some ways white people can be better allies for black colleagues during this time.
Dr. Alfie Breland Noble says there are things you should consider before reaching out. First, make sure it's appropriate. If you're polite to each other but never really had deeper conversations before, now might not be the time, as it could come off as disingenuous. Then think about how you'd want to be approached in a time of crisis. Some people may want space while others do want to talk. Recognize there may be cultural differences and just be open about it.
Really all about owning that our life experiences are different. I'm owning my race. I'm acknowledging your race. I'm valuing both as equally valid. And I'm just saying to you in plain language, I want to be a support to you.
And that's a key part there. You're trying to show support for them. Don't make it about you or your own validation. You can get that message across with what she calls, quote, I statements.
I want to communicate to you. I want to tell you that I care about you deeply, that I value you, that, you know, and for some people, it's important to hear that I do believe that Black Lives Matter.
Dr. Alfie also recommends an in-person conversation with your Black colleague. An email or a text can seem less personal.
6:39 now. New Brigadier General will be added to the ranks this coming Saturday. Colonel James Wilkins serves as the director of the Joint Staff for the Montana National Guard currently. Wilkins says the position is vital to ensure the Montana Guard soldiers and airmen are supporting the people of Montana and the country, whatever the mission. Wilkins' father, by the way, was Dr. Gene Wilkins, the town doctor in Ennis for decades. Ceremony will be a closed one at Fort Harrison, and that's coming up on Saturday. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Very cool.
Soon to be General Wilkins.
Big deal.
That's a big deal.
6:40 now. We're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, millions of stimulus checks still waiting to be claimed. Coming up, how people who have not yet received a check can get one. And here's what's coming up on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're in Houston where George Floyd will be laid to rest today. We'll also talk to the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus about legislation to reform policing in America, and to Spike Lee, who sees hope in the protests. Plus, the complicated feelings of Black police officers balancing their duty to serve while advocating for the Black community. And we preview tonight's CBS Primetime special, Justice for All, hosted by Gayle King. You're going to hear from presidential candidate Joe Biden and the mother of Amadou Diallo, whose son was shot and killed by New York City police officers 21 years ago. A lot of work still to do. We'll see you at 7.